Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Kalachakra path, the overview of the Kalachakra path. That means we're not going to talk about the details, but we're going to talk about the map of the Kalachakra path. So the Kalachakra path begins four preliminaries. So these four preliminaries means someone not entering Kalachakra path makes entry in the Kalachakra path. So that means this is not a rare Kalachakra path, but this makes everybody entering dharma path. So when we're talking about a dharma path means also we're not talking about dharma path, a little bit temporarily benefit for this life. We're not talking about that. These preliminaries make you entering the real path. So, okay, these preliminaries are the real dharma path, but not necessarily Kalachakra path. But it makes a Kalachakra path or not is determined what you may be motivating. You know, what dharma path you eventually choose. It becomes the foundation for those. Okay, so that means first start four convictions for the renunciation. So that means firstly, who don't know the dharma path, or those who knows intellectually a little bit, but they are not entering dharma path yet. For them, need to know four things. First, if these four things you don't know, never let enter in dharma path. So these four. So these four traditionally explained. First, say, pursues human birth. So that means we're not talking about pursues human birth is exist or not in general. It's not meaning that. It is means how we make our human birth a precious one. So that's what we're talking about. So that means the human birth, as long as you have human birth is pursued, doesn't mean that. But if you know how to make it, and then your pursued human birth, you can make precious one. So how to do this is you first recognize it. Our birth can make very, very precious. Very, very precious means there's no precious than any other rebirth, any other birth. Even the happiness level and joy level, there is much more supreme than human birth exists in even a samsara. But how you take the opportunity is they know better than any other birth rather than human birth. So that's we have to know. That means we're not talking about small advantages. We're talking about the advantage of true full enlightenment, the Buddhahood, the omniscienthood. You can make with a human birth, but not any other birth. Even their supreme, joyful, happy life, but cannot make enlightened path. So therefore, this human birth is something very, very precious if you recognize it. And then you know how to make the opportunity. So whole human birth, pursuit human birth chapter, we're talking about all these details. And then second one is we're talking about is human pursue human birth as long as we have is remain a long time, yes or no? We're talking about that. But the answer is unpredictable. Very, very unpredictable, meaning is one day cannot guarantee anybody. So that is disadvantage. But that doesn't mean you have a short life. But you don't know, regardless how you are young and healthy. So that's what means you have to take very, very urgently. So if we take urgently, the advantage is there is no room for laziness. There is no room for procrastination. There is no room for complacency. There is no room for depression and anxiety, all of these things. Why? Because all of these things, the modern problems, come from lack of understanding the pursuit of human birth and impermanent death, the uncertainty of time of death. Why? Because if you know that takes over everything, there is no room for any other modern problems. That's definitely. Have you ever seen or hear anybody have depression and everything, anxiety? That person who has really have urgent to practice dharma. Impossible. So that's why it's such incredible important subject. Those like Milarepa and many of them can cope with freezing, incredible harsh life in caves, eating just grass because of that. But those people nowadays, you have a depression and everything, no matter, you have incredible luxury compare those yogis and everybody, but you still have incredible depressed because of that. Because why I say this, because so many people think, oh, preliminary, oh, okay, again, these things, to lower teachings. Oh, I know this, I hear this many times. But hear and knowing is not enough. For instance, we have food is not enough, we have to eat. We have medicine is not enough, we have to eat. So same thing, dharma you know is not enough, we have to integrate in our life. So that's what I'm telling. But if we integrate even this one subject impermanent, you know, the death of, you know, uncertainty of time of death, there is no room for depression or anything. That's what I'm talking about. And then we talking about karma. Why are we talking about karma? Which means cause and effects, cause and effect. Because the obvious level of cause and effect is so obvious, everybody knows. Every single person. There's no way you don't know. But the subtle level, nobody knows unless we have to put the logic from the obvious, the cause and effect. You have to, that obvious level of knowledge, you have to take the subtle level. Otherwise, if you don't know how to do logic, then you just have to believe the enlightened beings taught us, and the most unconditional compassionate ones taught us. We just have to believe them. You have two choices. One is you believe the enlightened ones, the more unconditional compassionate ones, or you have to put your own logic. Why important to understand karma? Because if all of them, our complacency and procrastination, laziness, carelessness, no discipline, everything weakness, every single weakness come from that. So therefore, I mean, come from lack of understanding the cause and effect, which means everything is interdependent, everything is conditional. We don't know that. That's why we do wrongdoing things all the time. So that's the reason you have to understand karma. I'm not talking about details of karma today. Then we have to understand the faults of samsara. Why? Because we have incredible, a strong attachment to the samsara. So if you are touched with that entirely, there is no room, enlightenment path. Impossible. It takes over. The whole path take over, obscured by the attachment. So that's what we're talking about. That doesn't mean by tomorrow you have zero attachment, or a month or a year or 10 years, then you have zero attachment. May or not happen. Why? Because we build that attachment, innumerable lifetimes. Don't expect that. But as long as you moving forwards, that fixation of the attachment, if you are moving forward from it, then you are the right path. Then you don't have to worry too much. So that's why we talk about the samsara falls. That include everything is suffering, everything is nature suffering. We're talking about that. And then very limited knowledge people, very limited capacity, sees it as negative. You could depress from that. But if you are lucky, if you depress from that, you are really lucky. Why? Because this depression is definitely beginning of the renunciation. But you are depressed something within the samsara, something particularly things from samsara you are touched, and you couldn't get what you want. That is unfortunate, because you have no dharma there at all. But if you have renunciation of this depression, that's not last very long. Not going to be last very long. Because this is a broad view, long vision. So going to pass very quick. This gave you a strength, because you see the weakness of the samsara. That's why you depress. But then you realize you don't have to rely on the samsara. That's just temporary. Why? Because this depression, this renunciation, take you a right path. Then you slowly see, oh, they are just external. It doesn't have to be coming in me. They're just there, but not my own way, my way. So like that. These four things, like you understand the precious human birth, you understand the urgency, you understand how samsara formed ridiculously, and then you realize how we are attached on these things. Those, if you have this kind of realization, that make you entering the dharma path. So these four things, it doesn't have to be a Buddhist or anybody can contemplate that. Why? Because there is no way you can understand the samsara formed by one being. You can believe it, or God created everything in 7 days, but You cannot understand this, never. You only can believe, but you never can understand. But the difference is, if you understand everything is conditional and interdependent, thus you can understand more than believe. So that's why it doesn't have to be Buddhist. It doesn't have to be religious. Anybody can understand this. That means these four things, if you understand, enter in the Dharma path. But what kind of Dharma, what kind of direction take is up to you. Depend on your merits, depend on your connection. But if you take a Buddhist path, even the Buddhist path, if you want to take the high level of Buddhist path, then you realize the difference is what is enlightened and what is not enlightened. You realize that. You realize what is Buddha means. And also you realize Buddha within ourselves. But that is absolute Buddha, not the relative Buddha. We can relate it in this moment. It's not that one. But there is a historical Buddha is like our role model. You realize that. And he left us for us the path, how you unveil your own Buddha. That means the Buddha is a God for us, something you can trust 100%. Not just to trust 100% temporarily, but forever. Without any doubt. That's if when you have that kind of intuition or feeling, or whatever your intellectual level or emotional level, you connect it with this Buddha unconditionally, without any condition, for all beings. He thoroughly taught that path. He's not saying, I liberate you, but instead, you can liberate yourself in this way because I done it. So you can do the same thing. In that way, so then you understand this way. So then you developed an indestructible faith in your heart toward the Buddha. Even you don't understand the ultimate Buddha within yourself, that part you can just believe. But the external Buddha, you can something understand more than believe. That is we call refuge. Refuge. So refuge means is not temporary protect, temporary shelter, temporary rescue. This is like you find the ultimate rescuer. So that we call refuge. That becomes you are really Buddhist and Buddhist path. You are real Buddhist, not just somebody claims a Buddhist or somebody pretend a Buddhist. It's not somebody ceremoniously become a Buddhist. It's more like transforming yourself a real Buddhist. So that means you took in the real Buddha's path. That is beginning of internal preliminary of high level of the preliminary. But then this within the Buddha's extension, the detail of the Buddha, you understand three kayas. And then one of the kaya is connecting with Kalachakra deity. So then it becomes beginning of the path of the Kalachakra. That means you have to understand the Buddha is, the ultimate Buddha is innumerable forms. So the one of the most important form connected with this world is Kalachakra. So you are connecting on that. So that is the beginning. And then the second part called Bodhichitta. So you may think, oh, Bodhichitta is not just Kalachakra path. I heard everywhere, even in the Mahayana tradition, even there's no zero tantra, state as Bodhichitta, blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes, but this Bodhichitta, you are connecting with a Kalachakra tantra, with or lineage, spiritual ancestors of the unbroken lineage from the Buddha to Shambhala, and then enter this Shambhala lineage. You connecting, and this lineage, and this bodhicitta, and this bodhisattvas, the 35 of Rigdans, the Kalkis and Shambhala, they are becomes your model, role model, taking this path, taking responsibility, liberate all sentient beings, and take the golden age aspiration to transform our world. All of them is something to do with this Kalachakra lineage. So that's why your bodhicitta is categorized with this Shambhala lineage. So therefore, it becomes this bodhicitta is not just normal bodhicitta, but this bodhicitta is connecting with the Shambhala lineage. So that means our temporary aspiration is to transform our world, this earth, this humanity, a golden age. So incredible strength in your heart to develop. This path is opened. So that's why is your bodhicitta more classified in Kalachakra path. So it still is not Kalachakra, real Kalachakra path yet. It classifies on that path, on that direction. So that means still you could have a lot of obstacle to entering rare high Kalachakra path. So therefore, we have to practice the purification path. And this Heruka Vajasarva practice to purify all the obstacles, not just the general obstacles to obscure our our Buddha nature, but particularly temporarily to obscure the entering the actual Kalachakra path. So that's why we need a lot of preparation. For instance, if you, let's say car race, if you have to car race, you have to make smooth path, large enough and smooth enough, everything. This one you have to prepare first. But that is like similar of the, this purification. As similarly, if you have to make expensive jewelry, then how much process you have to go from the gold, from the granite or diamond, from the rock, anything you have to go many process. Similar way, you have to prepare. Building wise, how much you need prepare the land and the foundation, everything. So that is like a similar path you taken. And then after that, you have accumulation path. So mandala practice. Mandala is just only one example, one traditionally developed one example, one sample, one way to accumulation merit, but you have to multiple ways accumulation merits. Why? Merit, you have to understand like if it's a car racing, not just the path, not just the road, but you have to have perfect car. You have to have perfect car. So same thing. If it's building wise, you have to have building materials. You have to prepare the good building materials. The same thing. We need a lot of merit. Otherwise, you cannot even enter the rare Kalachakra path. That's why. Then after that, we practice Guru Yoga. Why practice Guru Yoga? Is the Guru Yoga is the only way? Is the only way entering the real path? The answer is no, it's not only way. But the most effective way That's we say. Is that means, okay, you prepare road, you prepare material, you know, the car, if the car race, if it's like building, you prepare the land, ground, and foundation, everything, then you have perfect building material, glasses, double glasses, soundproof glass, whatever, you know, the internal, or extra, everything you know, the building material perfect. Inside things suitable inside, outside things suitable outside, all of them is accumulation merit. But still you need key, go inside. You can't just build a house, there's no lockers. You need key. Even your car, you have to have key, and you have to have skills how to drive. So that is like the final preliminary of this like Guru Yoga. So I tell you very simple way why Guru Yoga is the final preliminary, absolutely necessary, entering the real Kalachakra path. Means all other preliminaries we talking about so far, all of them you can practice with samsaric capacities. Samsaric capacities. So which means samsaric intellect, samsaric emotion, everything you can practice. So the real actual Kalachakra path is something go beyond samsara. So that's why is the boundary is the Kalachakra path is the samsara and enlightenment, that samsaric path and enlightenment path, that kind of boundary is the Guru Yoga. Why? You break the boundary, you need something exception. So the Guru Yoga is something exception. Why? Because you believe or can feel that Guru is embodiment of everything. Even appears for you are just ordinary human being, but somehow you believe is embodiment of Buddhas of 3 times, 10 directions. So that means in simple form ways saying is there is nothing more important than in this universe, the Guru. But usually people, we have, oh, no, really, the Guru is important, da, 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 da. That's we already back to the samsara, samsaric normal habitual thoughts. Already went there. You are not in the boundary. You went to the other side. Is normal way, I think normal samsaric way, they can think this is wrong. This is like, you worship, especially like habit, people have God and sentient being. In that idea, then you say, oh, somebody worshiping a sentient being, a human being, thinking like God. That's totally wrong. You could think that. Depend your habit. But those you have habit, the Tantrayana Buddhism habit, for them is a little bit normal. We are human beings. We rely on culture. Relying on culture means we rely too much in the habit of the accumulation of all the people, race, your nationality, your race, where you born, where you brought up. So you didn't environment, and that way you easily can think this is Guru Yoga business is totally crazy path. Is you just pretending a human being, normal human being, you thinking is like embodiment or Buddha's bodhisattva. But the truth is, according to Buddha, not just the Guru, but yourself is embodiment Buddha actually. But it's too early to think of this. Right now, too early to think of this, too arrogant to think of that. You jump the wrong process if you think that way. So rather, you think that spiritual God, your spiritual God, if you think that way, is appropriate and effective. So meaning is this. So after you have understanding this, or at least some belief or feeling to acceptable, either emotionally or intellectually, you accept that, then you can enter in the actual Kalachakra path. And the actual Kalachakra path begins, yourself is Buddha. Remember? So that's why. Now is not too late. Now is not too late. Before is too late, but now is not too late. You see the process. So yourself is Buddha. If it's Kalachakra path, yourself is Kalachakra. You practice this. This is actual practice. Real Kalachakra path. You begin. But that time, you may think, some people think, oh, now is myself for the Kalachakra, so the Guru is not important, nothing. No, still yes. Still yes. All Kalachakra, Tanka have a blue Vajrayana above of the head. That examples, you cannot think ever, oh, no, I don't need Guru. There's many people say, oh, I rely on inner Guru. I don't need the external Guru. There is no inner Guru without external Guru. It's interdependent. I think people have this problem. If you rely on too much external guru and you expect too much and never even tiny realize inner guru, that is wrong. But also you arrogantly say, oh, I have only an inner guru, I don't need external guru. that is totally wrong. So external guru is the most important, but especially who taught the most, that is the most important. It's not who is the most knowledgeable, who is the most high position, who has the biggest title. That's not important. The important who most help you. That's the most important. So these things you have to be careful. Otherwise, you never realize any enlightened path. Never. If you there's something wrong with guru. So because that's Tantrayana path, you know, so you are a little bit wrong there, something, then a huge matter. So that's we have to be careful. And if you are not wrong there, and then when you practice the actual Kalachakra Tantra, visualize it in yourself as deity, enlightened. You feel comfortable and you get benefits. This is still we're talking about conceptual level. We're not talking about go beyond a conception. So that's why some traditions, or you have to practice this, become mastery, and then you have only chance to practice the completion stage. But according to Jonang-Shambhala, hundreds of years, a brief, short version of the generation practice. And then go a special preliminary winsome. So which means winsome is basically first the generation practice you intellectually, conceptually, you make good habit to recognize yourself as enlightened form. But in the winsome practice, no conception business. You let go all conceptual activities. You let go. It's not about, you know, like nowadays everybody try to meditate in internet, some more guide. It's not that way. Much more powerful, much more advanced way you go. So that's why it becomes very, very powerful. Unbelievable powerful. So that means you preparing go beyond conception. Beyond conception means beyond samsara. Because all this samsara is about conceptual business. So now you've gone beyond the conception. So then you enter in the completion part after that. The entering completion part, first yoga, We have 6 yogas in the completion part. The first yoga, if somebody can mastery of even first yoga, don't think, oh, it's just only first yoga. Even first yoga, if you can complete if you can mastery of the first yoga, there is, you have no rebirth other than Shambhala rebirth. Guarantor. More than double, triple guarantor. I'm talking about a minimum level. So that means if you go to the rebirth Shambhala, means there is no bardo you are scared of or confused. Because normal people die, enter in bardo and confuse and fighting. So you don't have that. You may have short pardo, something inspirational. And then 1 second in Shambhala, like that. So how to do this? We cannot say how to do this. Somebody in kindergarten, we cannot say how to do chemistry complexity or quantum physics things. Somebody in kindergarten, we can't really say. But maybe we can make some story, similar of story tell. Similarly, I can tell you what does mean first yoga means. First yoga means now you are ready to actual completion path. So that means there is a process of how to you go beyond conception. So the first one, we say Mariowa, immovable. Single pointedness. Then self-liberated. Then effortless. All this process you go. So that means all this process you went it, then what happened? There is no conception. There's no conception world. There's no conception. Perception, experience. You only experience something, a Buddha nature. But when we say a Buddha nature, you don't expect the entirety of Buddha nature. But you experience strange things you never experienced before. So that is still is Buddha nature experience. Let's say if you close eyes, somebody let you taste 1 sip of water. The water is salty. Then you know, oh, this is ocean water. You don't know the entirety ocean, but still you know this is not normal water, it's ocean water. Similarly, to begin, you experience something never experienced. Then that's ones we call science. There's 10 science. 6 science are not yoga practice. 4 are day yoga practices. Day and night doesn't mean in night time and daytime, okay? But the yoga, how you practice the yoga. And then but these all experiences, still there is something experience. And I mean you experiencing. That time we call first yoga. But then if you are entering the second yoga, could be possible years practice some people. Some people could be only weeks. If you're incredible fortunate, incredible accumulation merit, innumerable lifetimes, you could enter in second yoga, then after you mastery of first yoga, after a few weeks, or could be many years, decades, whatever. If you experience the second yoga, that means the experience and what you experience in and who's experiencing becomes like same. Becomes same. That means your mind and you experiencing becomes same. You perceive the same, not separate, not subject and object. So that's incredible. So if you take that further and further, that means the karmic conditions is not incredible effective for you anymore. That means, short example, very simple example. If you are incredible noise place, you meditate, you went to not only first yoga, but you even passed first yoga and entered second yoga. The incredible noise is a karmic sound, but your Buddha nature sound can take over the karmic sound if you wanted to. So you cannot hear anything of the karmic sound. You only hear the Buddha nature sound. Incredible. As the same as the vision, taste, smell, everything you can do that. So that means when you can do that, that means you are mastery of the second yoga. That means if someone becomes like that, when you are passed away, you're not just Shambhala, any Buddha realm, any Nirmanaka Buddha realm you can born, include Shambhala. So like that. So what And then if then, I'm talking about what has happened. That's I'm talking very briefly. We're not teaching today how to practice. That's impossible. That shouldn't even talk about. That's only when you practice. That time we have plenty details to talk about. Not now. Somebody entered the third yoga. That means it's actually you not just the Buddha nature experiences we call empty forms, these empty forms, form of the emptiness is not just like second yoga, you inseparable in your mind. Not only that, nor is it becomes inseparable of your inner veins, which means any movement, any tiny movement, or the movements we cannot even experience now, things you can do that time. So that means, but the inner movements becomes same as the form of emptiness. So therefore, that time you develop the power of the truth, which means a simple way I explain, when we do prayer, why we ask monks to pray. It doesn't mean only monks have power to pray. It's anybody has. But monks have supposed to have more. Why? I tell you. How your prayer is powerful, how degree of powerful is enter in many conditions, depend in many conditions. Let's say whoever you, doesn't matter, lay person or monk, your motivation, how large and how altruistic, that's one condition of power. Your concentration, how single focus, that's another one. Your emotion or determination, how stronger, that also one. Let's say one lay person and one monk, if their prayer, their emotions, determination, same degree, their motivation, how large is same degree, focus, same degree, still the monk one is a little bit more powerful. Why? Because monk means there is ethics. It doesn't mean lay person have no ethics, but the monk have supposed to have more ethics. Individually, you don't know that monk or the lay person who is better ethic. We don't know. But in general, meant to be. That's why we say, why we ask them power? Because monks, They're supposed to have more ethical and supposed to have more concentration, supposed to have more understanding. That's why we expect them they're better. Not necessarily individually, but if it does, then it's powerful. Same thing. But somebody at the third yoga stage, that person, incredible, all movements becomes the form of emptiness. That's why power of the speech, the truth, is developed. That means simple way I can experience, like this, the 7 billion of in this planet, same time, same motivation, prayer, or that somebody third yoga accomplished, one person prayer should be stronger than 7 billion. I mean, if the 7 billion, nobody accomplished the third yoga, but one person did, then it should be stronger than that. So that's why I say sometimes if there is bushfire, this person, one prayer can stop the bushfire. That doesn't mean anybody prayer and then bushfire stop, or somebody prayer, or it didn't bushfire stop, so must be not third yoga accomplished person. You can't say that, but that also depends how strong everybody's the sharing karma strong. You can't say that, but in general, it's like that, powerful. So the fourth yoga stage is not just the form of emptiness you're experiencing is not just mind and the wind movements, but entering the tigli. Tigli means drop. Drop means there is a substance in our body. It contains the blissfulness. So becomes inseparable of that. That means this form of emptiness, the part of Buddha nature, is not just you believe there, but instead you experiencing in even more blissful way. A simple way to explain. So that's why is jibdi. Jibdi means so even ordinary people have limited melting and this substance. So you have some blissful feeling, some degree of. So that's very unconditional. But this one is more, how do you say, more is with yourself, not too much, condition or external condition. So more develop within yourself condition. So that means a simple way explain, all your meditation is completely blissful. Not just blissful experience, but you are eliminating the karmic propensities. So that's why it's incredibly powerful. More than powerful than the third yoga and everything. So that means all these yogas from the first yoga, mostly like from the third yoga, you develop in simple way the union of the masculine and the feminines. You develop in this incredibly, the process of that. But the fourth yoga, the fifth yoga, the fourth yoga preparing the final mastery. And the fifth yoga, you develop the most highest level of this union. So which means the fifth yoga, you are no longer to rely on any external. Whenever you are becomes no longer any external or any conditional, we can say consult or anything, you are not relying on that. You are only relying on the highest, the empty form consult. At that time is called fifth yoga. So that means the fifth yoga are preparing the sixth yoga. So sixth yoga means that means the fifth yoga you developed the greatest immutable bliss without any condition. So that means there is no zero room for any samsaric obstacles. So you become like that. So then the sixth yoga means this one single greatest immutable bliss you developed the fifth yoga, you increase this 21,000 times. But the 21,000 just example of like how human beings breathe a single day and how the astrology goes, all these things, some kind of that calculation. But you can say innumerable. Then it becomes innumerable, then you are fully Buddha enlightened. So that's it. So this is the Kalachakra map. So that means we don't go into details today, but one day we can talk. So every stage of six yogas developments, you have a different liberation whenever you passed away. You have guarantor, either you yourself become a Buddha or yourself become a Buddha during the lifetime or during, if you are the sixth yoga, if mastery, then you are become the absolute Buddha in your lifetime before death. But if you fifth yoga mastery, just process death, you are fully enlightened. If fourth yoga only you develop, and then the Pardo, you become a Buddha. Then third yoga means you are the highest level of bodhisattva, like Avalokiteshvara, you know, Manjushri, Vajrapani, like this, like equal of the Shambhala Dharmakins. If you second yoga, if you developed, you not the ultimate bodhisattvas, but you definitely become a bodhisattva. So you enter any Buddha realm. So even the first yoga, only first yoga, if you developed, you will become guarantee in Shambhala, and you are bodhisattva. And your single lifetime in Shambhala, you fully enlightened. So if you didn't develop any of these things, only you have determination of practice preliminaries, and you know, and you have this golden age aspiration, just that alone, you have 99.99 chance to reborn Shambhala immediate next life, like that. I can't say 100% guarantee is. That's the only thing only omniscient can say. So like that. But the others can say, because it's just like double triple guarantee. Is there's no other way impossible logically. So that's why. Okay, so I finished the map. So next time we talk about more practically. Today, I hope they have no more questions, but if there's absolutely necessary, I can some answer.
If you have a question, please pop it in the chat. We have one question, but if you have, just to let everyone know, next week on Friday, Rinpoche is giving a teaching all about the Lodrö, and you know, who can do the Lodrö, who is qualified, what the process is like. So all questions related to the Lodrö, Rinpoche will answer if you've ever wanted to do one. So we have one right now that'll ask, but all the other questions related to that, we have a special session next week on Friday, 7:30 Melbourne, Australia time, to answer those questions. So the first question that was asked is about doing the Lodrö. If you've already done a Lodrö in the Kagyu or another tradition, and they're practicing the Guru Yoga in the Kagyu tradition, is it a different line that goes to Kalachakra? So does one need to start practicing in the Kalachakra tradition?
So if you done any other tradition Ngondros, any other lineage the Ngondros, all help you a lot, there is no contradiction, and there is a lot of help, contribute a lot. However, you have to connect with Kalachakra lineage. If you practice Kalachakra, you have to connect the lineage, and you have to build a familiarization of this. And all your Ngondro practice before, it becomes inspiration. How do you say? You have to understand becomes the advantage for Kalachakra practice. But it will be like that.
Rinpoche, why is there no internal guru without an external guru?
So no matter how we are good, we are not exist with our parents, right? Parents is our how do you say producer. So we cannot exist with our parents. Similarly, you know, like the path who introduce you, your master Lama who introduce you have to become the part of your path, and eventually is the part of your how do you say, your accomplishment. You can't just leave them separately. If you have something like a separation, then is that means we are misunderstanding. You know, something is part of, we leave them as separate, so that that's a misunderstanding. Then misunderstanding, ignorance. So ignorance, we have always consequence. That's why I'm saying. So not only that, but even if some people say, oh, I already have guru, so how can I have another guru? Or some people say, oh, you know, can I have guru, many guru, or only one guru? Or even many gurus, okay, but one root guru have to be only one, right? That's all wrong idea, you know. So you have to become everything a part of, you know. So become is a big part or small part is temporarily our feeling, you know, whatever you feel, that's temporarily. But ultimately, as become equal, everyone. But temporarily, a small part or become part, real part, that's okay. That's genuine. That's natural. It's not you pretending. That's okay.
Rinpoche, I'm practicing the inner and outer fire wheel. How can I come to do the 6 yogas?
Okay, so inner and outer fire wind, I don't know what it means, but my guess is some kind of visualization. So visualization, there's some rituals, they have those practices. So this is, I guess, if you thinking something visualization and you using the mind, then is could become the part of the generation practice. So it will help. If it does, then it will help the Kalachakra generation path. So then the compilation practice, you have to go beyond that.